What's up, everybody? Brett here, and I'm back today playing some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. It's going to be a 3v3 today. It's a pretty fun one. Played multiple games with this group of guys, and we're going to be fighting today on the Cliff of Beasts. My team is made up of myself playing the Tomb Kings. We've got the Vampire Coast and the Warriors of Chaos, and then our opponents are going to be the Empire, Bretonia, and the Vampire Counts. We got a lot to talk about with this game. Some stuff strategic-wise, and some things that really only matter so much when you're playing in a 3v3. So look how we deployed, right? We're offset from each other. We're not exactly even. And our opponents are going to make good use of that, and my allies are not. So as you can see, I'm kind of the linchpin in this formation. I am directly in front of the entire enemy army. And what do, right? I instantly start switching my formation around. I start getting some of my units pulled back. I get some of my halberds in a better defensive position because I know what's coming, right? I know the Rohirrim charge of the Bretonians is coming. I know that I'm going to be meeting the front lines of the Vampire Counts and the Empire head on. And all I can do at this point is try and protect myself, right? I need my allies to come to my aid. And to their credit, the Chaos player is starting to move over. He's got some of his Chaos Trolls moving into a better position. But what I really needed was their infantry. I needed these guys to step forward here and protect our flanks because we can see what's coming. We've got Knights of the Realm moving to the east. We've got Royal Hippogriff Knights and King Llewellyn Lyn Corps in conjunction with the Strigoi Vampire Lord. He's got his own cavalry here. Black Knights with lances and bardings and Barracks Reavers who have regen, as well as the Dire Pack with their anti-large bonuses. And I am going to be quickly enveloped. And I've got just enough forces to protect myself, right? I've got my Bone Giant firing, doing great damage versus great swords and handgunner units. Not great swords, rather, but definitely to the handgunners we were able to do quite a bit. And my Ushapti are finally in range to start taking pot shots at whatever they can. And right now I think I'm targeting these peasant bowmen with fire. I've got my Lich Priest of Nehekara, was using Nero's incantation to protect my Bone Giant, but then I realized right after I cast it that it was the Hammer of the Witches, which does magic damage. So that wasn't really going to protect me. That physical resistance wasn't going to pay off. And I tried to move back my Necropolis Knights here, my anti-large halberd variants, with High Queen Khalida to protect me from these cavalry charges that I know are coming. And I've got the only real cavalry on the field for my team. Oh man, I'm pretty sure these scurvy dogs get left for the entire battle. But good play here from the Strigoi Vampire Lord. He's going to be flying right over. He's got a Spirit Leech being cast on him. And I think I see an opportunity here to shut down these Barracks Reavers right off the bat. And I'm going to take a pretty nasty charge from the Knights of the Realm. I'm going to countercharge them. And in this particular instance, we win this, right? But we're surrounded. We're isolated. And thankfully, the Summoners of Rage, the big dragon ogre boys, they're going to be coming to my aid. We've got some Chaos Marauders that are going to help us saturate this fight. Venomous Wave going off, poisoning all of these units, doing some decent damage in AoE. But I have no choice, guys. I have to send forward my front line to engage this huge blob here, just to try and keep them off of the rest of our forces. Now that Strigoi Vampire Lord dropped one unit of Crypt Ghouls here, and look at the blobbing he was able to do. Look at the distraction. I have a feeling that the Vampire Coast player was a bit new, maybe perhaps even new to 3v3s. We needed everything he has here. He's got all of these zombie pirate handgunners. We needed them in this fight helping out. Because I'm being forced to throw everything I have at the wall to try and hold them back. The Bone Giant's still online. My Ushapti are still online, but I'm starting to take handgunner fire and peasant bowman fire arrows to the face. And I'm going to have to be, pretty slick about moving them backwards so that we don't lose them all right off the bat. High Queen Khalida was being very much overwhelmed. And the Warrior Priest, we've also got the Royal Outdoor Griffites. They came in as well. Spirit Leech being cast on them. But the Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Death, plus High Queen Khalida are more than enough to take out Llewellyn Lyn Corps. He does have Flesh to Stone, giving him huge armor, 150. And thanks to the throwing axes here from the Marauder Horsemen, we were able to drive off some of those Hippogriff Knights. And that's not going to be a super great cast from the Summoners of Rage. You want to use that on infantry units. It doesn't do very much versus cavalry. He'll get a few kills, but I think he also killed quite a few of my units as well. And another Venomous Wave going off here, going to be tearing into that Dire Pack, trying to drive them off. But the Flagellants are pushing forward. This frontline engagement here, not altogether all that interesting. It's just my guys trying to hold the line with no support whatsoever. And if they weren't, you know, Tomb King's units, they would be dead instantly. They would have routed already. I'm pulling back my ranged to try and help protect them, get them further away from the gun lines. I've got the Lich Priest just spamming out spells. High Queen Khalida dropped below 50%, and I think we missed it here. Let's see what happens in the next few seconds. Yeah, I got nuked by the Chaos Sorcerer Lord's breath attack from his dragon. High Queen Khalida, I was pulling her out. She was getting surrounded, but she was fine. I was casting defensive magic on her, and my ally came in to try and get a breath attack on Lewin, and ended up nuking me instead. So that happens sometimes in 3v3s, but you got to be careful of your allies' units. The front line here must all be in a hot group because he's using them kind of all at once. And yeah, we needed this. We needed this very badly. He's got Count Noctilus here who basically doesn't join the fight until it's nearly over. My Bone Giant is still trying to get some effectiveness, but every time he gets hit by the Hammer of the Witches, he gets staggered, and he doesn't shoot. It's one of the worst things about the Bone Giant is their animations can be very easily interrupted. So here, High Queen Khalida goes down. She did pretty good work holding off a lot of the cavalry here, but King Lewin is going to get healed up. He's got regen himself. They have a Lore of Life caster with the Damsel, and pretty much their entire firing line is still active. I still have some Tomb Guard, however, that are taking care of business in the front line, holding. Queen Bess is now online, shooting again at some correct targets. It's going to get big kills, but you would expect nothing less from an artillery piece of that caliber in a game with this many units. King Nikesha's Scorpion Legion, always a pretty value pick for me. They always hold until almost the last man. And just look at the sheer number of units my guys are holding back. Tomb Guards holding back all of these Great Guard, the Varix Reavers. But it's only a matter of time before my front line crumbles. And this Depth Guard here being sent out to attack I don't know what. But they are vampires, so they're vulnerable to fire damage. And they're just taking these volleys to the face and not actually doing anything. So that's pretty rough. Strigoi Vampire Lord, we can see his healing cap is getting near to being reached. Opal Amulet protecting it with some ward save. But this group here of Warrior Priests, Karl Franz, with the Altdorf Griffites, it's a nice little goon squad, and they also have the Jade Wizard to, you know, give them some Earth Bloods whenever they engage. It's crazy that the Royal Altdorf Griffites are already near their healing cap. And this is another case where he used a breath attack that I'm pretty sure all it did was melt the back of my Tomb Kings. It did do pretty decent damage, it looks like, to King Lewin. But I tried to get a surround here with these halberds. And I get a few good surrounds here when my enemies aren't suspecting it this game. But just look at the huge blob. This entire army is nearly unaffected. And now that Queen Bess has decimated my Bone Giant, it turned its attention to Queen Bess and destroyed her. So Hammer of the Witches, really MVP this battle. We had some fast-moving calves in the form of these Marauder Horsemen. They could have gone up here and probably disabled it. There was nothing to stop them. And now we just have these pockets of infantry that I have left. Look at the blob being created around the weird spawn, which is pretty sweet to see these guys. A couple Chosen still fighting, and they're going to rack up huge kills. But Chosen with Tomb Guards with Halberds with weird spawn is kind of a cool mix of anti-large, armor-piercing, super heavy metal anti-infantry, and then these unbreakable monstrosities here in the center. But yeah, my opponents really have the choice of what they want to do here. I've managed to keep my Lich Priest alive despite it being on foot. It's a very cheap investment that ultimately paid off quite a bit. And I think I missed, but I had an Ushapti summon back here. I think that's these guys. And they were able to rack up 30, 40 kills. Now that they disintegrate quite quickly, they time out rather, they weren't able to disrupt the handgunners as much as I had wanted them to. And now that all of this fire arrows are going into the zombie pirate gunnery mobs with handguns, they're blobbed up, they're going to be taking a lot of damage, and they're actually obstructing their own lines of sight here. And I'm going to be tucking my Lich Priest back in and amongst some kind of forces so that he can't be sniped. And Count Noctilus is kind of just rolling deep here with his entire infantry squad. And they're being chased by the Sons of Sigmar, this unbreakable, or Sigmar's sons rather, unbreakable swordsman unit. We'll tear into them. And we finally run out of Ushapti ammunition on our great bows. We were trying to aid in routing off all of these peasant bowmen. This mortar back here, still online. It's got a ton of kills despite the fact that it didn't really do anything for the first half of the battle. But whenever you're able to shoot into huge blobs like this, you're going to get a lot of kills. Handgunners are posted up, and they're starting to wrap around. Very good play from our opponents. And yeah, Gunnery White here, shooting, 6 kills. No doubt the plan was to constantly load Queen Bess with ammo. She's got tons of ammo, but no Queen Bess. Just stayed a little bit too close to the Hammer of the Witches, and not shutting that down was definitely a mistake. And now the handgunners go uncontested. They're going to be able to fire as much as they wish. I still have this group of Tomb Guard here fighting, despite the Soul Blight being cast on them. They have only 20 armor. And we're going to try and help. But I mean, they're all crumbling here. Count Noctilus, not being quite the bastion of leadership I'm sure he wished he was. My poor Lich Priest. I think at some point I'm going to get in here and I'm just pissed off. Lich Priest, I'm going to call him Kevin. Kevin's going to get in here, and he is just going to start crushing these flagellants. Do it, Kevin. And to be honest with you guys, there's not much interesting going on in any part of the battlefield right now. My ally is finally in the fight, but it's too little too late. We needed the Vampire Coast infantry to soften the blows of all of those other engagements. We needed Queen Bess to stay online. If you're going to go for the Gunnery White Queen Bess strategy, she has to fire. You know, she got a lot of kills, 158, but I could easily see her going into the 300, 400 range if she was well protected. And we also needed for the Hammer of the Witches to get shut down much, much sooner. And I'm going to completely crumble out of the game. My life energies are spent as the Tomb Kings. I gave everything I had to protect that flank. And I think I made good account of myself, considering how much I was overwhelmed. All of my units essentially had a role and did what they were supposed to do. You know, even until the end, I was still casting spells, trying to aid my allies, give them defensive buffs, and keep them in the fight. But that's going to be it. All we've got left, this one mortar, still firing. Queen Bess's crew now crumbled into the dust. There's Gunnery White, up to 19 kills, but down he goes. And Count Noctilus in the thick of it. But even he's going to start to crumble. And the last thing I want to show you guys is pretty sweet Deathwind. Oh god, that's brutal. I actually don't even know whether or not that was from Noctilus or from the Strigoi Ghoul King. I have no idea whether or not that was just a fun thing that they did. Just to, you know, they knew they were winning, so why not kill your own zombies? Or whether or not that was Count Noctilus. I actually don't know if he has access to Deathwind. I don't remember. But that was a fun one. And I just want to say thanks to everybody for playing these games. You know, obviously I critiqued Boas here, the Conqueror, quite a bit. But a lot of that just comes with playing more games. You get more experience. You know what to do in these types of situations. I'll say that our opponents played well together. This was their second game playing together. And yeah, even their team comp works really well. Just cheap infantry from the Empire, a nice mobile goon squad here, and then an excellent handgunner line, as well as one of the most powerful artillery pieces in the game. This build for the Empire player especially is very segmented, and on its own, every piece can work together to aid all of the other players in the game. So cheap infantry line here, King Lewin acting as a great, you know, gooner of lords, and then all of these Knights of the Realm, Hippogriff Knights, working together. I like that. I also like the Grail Relic, especially in 3v3s, because you never know where this guy is going to end up, and he can end up buffing, especially something like you know, Vampire Counts units. You can make them almost unbreakable. A group of Graveguard. Yeah, the Sternsman got wiped out, probably by Queen Bess. But you never know where he's going to end up. And if you just sit him in and amongst, you know, Skeleton Spears, Graveguard with great weapons, something like that, next thing you know, you've got an unbreakable group of Graveguard, which is pretty cool synergy there. Strigoi Vampire Lord was very mobile, absorbed a ton of damage this game, completely reached his healing cap. I was shooting at him with my Ushapti great bows for a lot of that game. Could have got a lot more kills on them if I had just focused on infantry. But there was a point where I noticed that he had reached his healing cap, and I was trying desperately to take him out. Bone Giant, despite taking a ton of that withering Hammer of the Witch's fire for most of the game, was still able to rack up 117 kills, mostly on handgunners, and, you know, just trying to pick out the blobbed up masses and shooting them. And that was kind of my strategy there. The Kepler Guard, I was casting some spells on them, trying to give them some armor piercing so they could fight back against Graveyard, but they were overwhelmed. It was like a 4v1 while they were fighting. And the only reason they held on so long was certainly because of their regen. And sadly, once my Necropolis Knights were engaged, there was no pulling out. And there was really nothing I could do to protect them once they were in there. And yeah, I just tried to make good account of myself, hold on as long as I could, so that perhaps the artillery pieces and the handgun lines of my allies could take over and start doing the DPS we needed. In the end, you know, some good value here and there. The Scurvy Dogs, I think, were completely forgotten about for the entire battle. Count Noctilus needed to get in there much sooner. He would have been quite the force to be reckoned with throughout the entire battle. I mean, even at the end, he didn't die because they killed him. He died because, like, it was army losses. He had, like, a full health vampire lord who never took any damage. And you got to get him stuck in there early on, so they start accruing that value by taking the damage and regenning. And then in that way, your opponents waste a lot of DPS on a very tanky lord. And then the Chaos player, not much to complain about other than I think he melted me once or twice with his Chaos Lord. But his casting was on point. Using Spirit Leeches on the Demigryph Knights is a good strategy. They're a low model count entity with high HP. So it's almost like you're casting on a bunch of little mini lords or mini heroes. And you start killing models, which is way more important than just doing damage to the whole unit. Because as we saw, he was rolling around with the Jade Wizard getting heals off. And then, you know, the Marauders were thrown in as chaff. The Throwing Axes did a good job at shutting down Bretonia's Hippogriff Knights, helping me out in that regard. I was shooting at them in the beginning of the battle for sure with my Ushabti, and I want to say I killed one or two models by doing that. The weird spawn, putting them in and amongst my my Tomb Guard was a good option, giving them those meat shields so that they could be like a blender unit like they were always meant to be. They do armor sundering, so they were great versus pretty much everything on this side of the battlefield. And the Trolls, sadly, I always feel like they're either really good or really bad. And these are the unarmored versions. In 3v3s, a lot of times the leadership, you'll find units that wouldn't normally come back coming back. So the Chaos Trolls could come back and, you know, find themselves mixed in amongst infantry, but they just didn't really have a home. And this one chosen unit got value, but I mean, it was probably, at the end of the day, just fighting skeletons and peasant mobs. But generally good play from everyone, and it was fun. And we have another game that I'd like to show you guys. I'll cast that one next on the channel, and I hope you enjoy it. But thanks again for everyone playing and being good sports. And it's not always about winning, it's about learning from the game. And our opponents did the great strategy in a 3v3 of, you know, overwhelming one flank. They crushed me. And if I had been any other race, I think, other than a race as stalwart as the Tomb Kings, I would have got completely run over. Had I been playing Greenskins or Beastmen or something like that, and I had gotten smashed like that, it would have just been a mass rout, and that would have been it. That would have been game. But that's something to learn, and yeah. So this game was fun. I hope you guys look forward to the next one. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming, and as always, y'all, I will see you in the next one. Take care.